Hello, my name is Brian Butler. I'm Chair of Faculty Senate and Professor of Philosophy, as well as Howerton Professor of Humanities here at UNC Asheville. You might think that higher education is just slightly different from K through 12. K through 12 is a lot about bringing people up to speed in terms of skills. We do a little bit of that, but we also bring in disciplinary knowledge. One of the most important differences in the 4-year to the university level is that we all do research, and our actual research informs the classroom. So we're actually not just giving back kind of general ideas of, say, philosophy. I'm a philosophy professor, or humanities, but we're actually doing work in the field and bringing our specific work into the classroom. That is one of the large differences between us and, say, community colleges and K through 12. So we are practitioners in our field as well as teachers of our field. That's important because at a certain point, the democratic citizen, the adult, is learning how to make decisions on their own, not just kind of the cultural traditions. And we are at an interesting spot as a cusp. We're both the purveyors of tradition, but also the purveyors of critical thought and the ways of citizenship, and of course watching our students have their own say. So we deal with students not as trainers, but as educators. And as educators, it's very different. It's much more about students blazing their trail and us having tools to help them rather than training them into kind of adulthood. At the University of North Carolina, Asheville, the tenure process is pretty much a 6 to 7 year process. After the first 3 years, you get evaluated and you go up for reappointment. In 3 more years, you go up and get evaluated for tenure. So tenure, you would go through the process in your 6th year, and you'd go through it and get it for your 7th year. And that's generally industry practice for academics, that you'll become tenured or you'll have to leave in your 7th year. And it's pretty tough, because if you're not tenured, then you lose your job. Within the tenure process, there are different titles that attach to different levels of professor. An assistant professor is one that's in the process of working toward tenure. Once you get tenure, you would generally start at the associate professor level. And then the associate professor level then would be the tenured professor, or at a certain level, a senior professor. And then there's one step above that, generally, which would be full professor or just professor. And that's usually given after significant accomplishment past associate professor. There's no real time line for the full professor. That one you could go up for really quickly after associate professor if your accomplishments are high, or can take a while. And different departments and different divisions have different expectations on that. But so the 3 levels would be assistant, working toward tenure, associate once you have tenure, and then full professor with a level of accomplishments past tenure. The tenure ends up being somewhat of a permanent position, where the idea is that you will be employed and in good standing as long as, say, you don't commit a felony so that you get a lot of independence. The reason that you are supposed to have independence, well, there are various reasons, but the first reason would be for academic freedom, that you can take somewhat unpopular stances, you can argue, you can, and this would be for various reasons. One, obviously a political reason, but that's lesser than the idea that after you've earned your stripes in your 7th year, you've shown that you're a professional, that you are a master of a discipline, and so you can pursue your interests in a way that may appear idiosyncratic to those outside of your discipline. This is funny because it also, in some sense, would fit in with the idea of innovation, right? So the idea is that once you have proven your ability in your profession, you have proven the worth to be given some freedom to work in innovative ways within your discipline or within the academy. Well, public liberal arts puts UNC Asheville in a unique position. Obviously, we are educating people, trying to give them the skills for the job market, these kind of things, this kind of training skills, and critical thought skills work well for this. Sometimes they're called soft skills, but I think of them more as critical thought skills, creativity skills. The public side means that we also have an obligation to create citizens. So not only are we aiming for jobs, we're aiming for people that have the critical thought, the citizenship skills of being committed to public service, to making an impact in society. All of this, the liberal arts, the public liberal arts, becomes really important for. Furthermore, and also, what are some of the skills? Some of the skills are things like the narrative imagination, creativity, innovation. For in the humanities, I'm a humanities philosophy professor, would be to learn from tradition so that we can innovate upon it, right? We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to understand the ways wheels were invented so we can help society innovate and find new and creative ways to make the future better, to be more employable, these kind of things. And welcome to UNC Asheville. I'm sure you'll enjoy it here. We're glad to have you.